Liz Cheney says it would be very difficult to support Ted Cruz, or Josh Hawley Jared Kushner has said that Donald Trump would have attempted to stop the January 6th Capitol riots had he known about it beforehand, calling the attack on the building unexpected. In his new memoir Breaking History, Mr. Kushner wrote, "What is clear to me is that no one at the White House expected violence that day. I'm confident that if my colleagues or the president had anticipated violence, they would have prevented it from happening." Mr. Trump lashed out at the Democratic Party yesterday for the politically motivated raid on Mar-a-Lago by the FBI, claiming it was because they fear him most as a candidate in the 2024 election. This coming week we'll see a decision by Judge Bruce Reinhart as to whether the affidavit that led to the search warrant can be released in redacted form as media organizations have requested. Mr. Trump's legal team has made no moves to push for its release. Key Points Kushner says Trump would have stopped violence on January 6th if he knew about riot beforehand. Trump claims FBI agents love him as he plans to challenge breadth of Mar-a-Lago warrant. Cheney says Trump would be afraid to debate her in 2024. Trump rails against Democrats and Cheney on Truth Social. Trump claims FBI agents furious at bureau leadership and love him. Pence says he never took classified material. When he left office, Trump hints at legal action over FBI's Mar-a-Lago search. Donald Trump, his backers, and the race to protect the 2024 election. 729, Arpan Rai 729, Arpan Rai Look no further than the fate of Liz Cheney to find an illustration of the long-lasting political effects of the riot at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, and the false claims of Donald Trump about the legitimacy of the 2020 election that preceded it. As Republicans who have embraced the former president's false claims about the 2020 election being stolen make their way to the midterms, Chris Stevenson asks what it means for the contest in 2024. Read the full story here. Copyright provided by the Independent. Donald Trump, his backers, and the race to protect the 2024 election result. Breathing room for Biden after big summer win. 7 o'clock, Oliver O'Connell. 7 o'clock, Oliver O'Connell. President Joe Biden and his allies hope big recent wins on climate, healthcare, and more will at least temporarily tamp down questions among top Democrats about whether he will run for re-election. That optimism may be short-lived, at risk if and when former President Donald Trump announces another White House campaign. But for now, the will he or won't he Washington parlor game appears to be on hold. Copyright provided by the Independent. Breathing room for Biden. Big summer wins ease 2024 doubts. ICYMI. Jared Kushner addresses FBI raid, says Trump drives his enemies so crazy. 643, Arpan Rai 643, Arpan Rai Jared Kushner has claimed that the FBI raid on his father-in-law's Mar-a-Lago estate is another example of the former president's enemies persecuting him. President Trump is a fighter. He's always been a fighter, Mr. Kushner told Fox News host Mark Levin on Saturday in his first public comments about the August 8th search of Mr. Trump's Florida home. In the way that he drives his enemies so crazy, they always over-pursue him and make mistakes in trying to get him. That's basically what happened here. Read the full story here. Copyright provided by the Independent. Jared Kushner addresses FBI raid on Trump home amid speculation he may be mole. Kushner says Trump would have stopped violence on January 6th if he knew about riot beforehand. 6 o'clock, Arpan Rai 6 o'clock, Arpan Rai Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner has said that the former president would have attempted to stop the violence at the U.S. Capitol building had he known about it beforehand, calling the historical attack on the prestigious building unexpected. In his new memoir Breaking History, Mr. Kushner wrote, "What is clear to me is that no one at the White House expected violence that day. I'm confident that if my colleagues or the president had anticipated violence, they would have prevented it from happening," reported the Washington Times. After more than 600 peaceful Trump rallies, these rioters gave Trump's critics the fodder they had wanted for more than 5 years, Mr. Kushner said. He added, "The claim was as false as the narrative that the violent Antifa rioters who desecrated American cities that summer were representative of the millions of peaceful demonstrators who had marched for equality under the law." Trump backed Dr. Oz underwater with his own voters in new Fox News poll of Pennsylvania. 5 o'clock, Arpan Rai 5 o'clock, Arpan Rai. There's more bad news for Donald Trump. Endorsed GOP Senate candidate in Pennsylvania, Dr. Mehmet Oz. As per a new Fox News poll, Dr. Oz trails his Democratic opponent, Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, by a significant margin. What's unique about this poll, however, is the deficit it shows the Republican nominee faces among even his own supporters. Many other polls have also shown the same report card for Mr. Trump's elect. The celebrity TV doctor already faced questions about his Yinzer bona fides before posting an embarrassing video last weekend filmed in a grocery store in which he tried to point out the painful toll of inflation, succeeding only in attracting mockery with his mispronunciation of the market's name and apparent unfamiliarity with the task of shopping for groceries. Article length copyright provided by the independent Dr. Oz Underwater with his own voters in new Fox News poll of Pennsylvania revealing Mar-a-Lago affidavit could put witnesses in danger of being intimidated by Trump. Adam Schiff warns 430, Arpan Rai 430. Arpan Rai Congressman Adam Schiff warned that a potential decision by a judge to unseal an affidavit detailing the evidence that led to the FBI's execution of a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago could imperil the DJS investigation. The move could potentially lead to witnesses being intimidated by former President Donald Trump, which his panel has warned publicly on multiple occasions is occurring in regards to their own witnesses, the California Democrat and January 6th committee member speculated while speaking with CNN's Jake Tapper on State of the Union. Mr. Schiff said, "You could learn a great deal from the sealed affidavit, and that's just the problem for the Justice Department. I think probably their concern is very legitimate. We've seen the president retaliate against anyone he considers a whistleblower, accuse them of treason," he said. John Bowden has the full report here. Copyright provided by the Independent revealing Mar-a-Lago affidavit could put witnesses in danger. Adam Schiff warns Ted Cruz says FBI raid on Trump home was January 6th probe fishing expedition 4 o'clock. Oliver O'Connell 4 o'clock. Oliver O'Connell Ted Cruz has claimed that the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago was a fishing expedition for incriminating documents related to the U.S. Capitol riots. Without offering any evidence, Mr. Cruz asserted the August 8th raid on Donald Trump's Florida residence was part of a secret plan by the Department of Justice to gather evidence on the January 6th insurrection. What is really distressing now looking at the warrant and what they were searching for, this was a fishing expedition, Mr. Cruz said on his podcast Verdict with Ted Cruz. Copyright provided by the independent Ted Cruz says FBI raid on Trump home was secret fishing expedition. Cheney says January 6th committee still wants to hear from Pence in person 3 o'clock. Oliver O'Connell 3 o'clock. Oliver O'Connell Rep. Liz Cheney, vice chair of the January 6th House Select Committee, says that the panel still wants to hear directly from former Vice President Mike Pence. Look, he played a critical role on January 6th. If he had succumbed to the pressure that Donald Trump was putting on him, we would have had a much worse constitutional crisis, she told Jonathan Karl, chief Washington correspondent for ABC News. Copyright provided by the independent Liz Cheney says January 6th committee still wants to hear from Mike Pence in person. Court says DOJ memo on protecting Trump from prosecution over Mueller probe must be released 2 o'clock. Oliver O'Connell 2 o'clock. Oliver O'Connell, the Justice Department has been ordered to release a secret memo in which it discussed whether Donald Trump had obstructed Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. The decision by a federal appeals court found that former Attorney General Bill Barr had improperly withheld portions of the March 2019 memo, which he said he relied on to determine if Mr. Trump should face prosecution. The memo has been at the center of a legal battle for more than a year after the advocacy group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, CREW, fought for its release in a public records lawsuit. Copyright provided by the Independent Justice Department memo on protecting Trump from prosecution must be released. Court rules Giuliani request for blanket pardon did not reach Trump. Book says 1 o'clock. Oliver O'Connell 1 o'clock. Oliver O'Connell, a new book, claims that an associate of Rudy Giuliani tried to pass a message to Donald Trump shortly after the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot asking if he could grant Mr. Giuliani a general pardon and award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Maggie Haberman reports in the New York Times that the associate, Maria Ryan, also pleaded for Mr. Giuliani that he be paid for his services to the president and sent a separate note allegedly seeking tens of thousands of dollars for herself. Mr. Trump never saw the request because Bernard Kerik, Mr. Giuliani's close advisor and the New York City Police Commissioner for part of his time as mayor, stopped the letter from getting to the president. Copyright provided by the Independent. Giuliani request for pardon intercepted before reaching Trump. Book says far-right primary wins in blue states endanger GOP hopes in November. Monday, August 22, 2022, midnight. Oliver O'Connell. Monday, August 22, 2022, midnight. Oliver O'Connell. Republicans have found success in Democratic strongholds like Maryland and Massachusetts when they have fielded moderate candidates who could appeal to voters in both parties. With Democrats facing headwinds this year, Republicans had hoped that strategy could pay off yet again. But Republican voters have nominated loyalists of former President Donald Trump in several Democratic states, including Maryland and Connecticut, making the GOP's odds of winning those general election races even longer. Copyright provided by the Independent. Far-right wins in blue states threaten GOP hopes in November. Lindsey Graham testimony in Georgia election probe put on hold Sunday, August 21, 2022, 23:30. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 23:30. Oliver O'Connell. A federal appeals court on Sunday agreed to temporarily put on hold the lower court's order requiring that U.S. Sen. Lindsey Graham testify before a special grand jury that's investigating illegal plots to overturn Donald Trump's 2020 presidential election. Loss in Georgia. A subpoena had instructed the South Carolina Republican to appear before the special grand jury on Tuesday. Copyright provided by the Independent. Sen. Graham testimony in Georgia election probe put on hold. Trump lawyer wants FBI agents named Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2300 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2300 hours. Oliver O'Connell, as staff at the FBI and Department of Justice face threats of violence in the wake of last week's Mar-a-Lago search. One of Donald Trump's lawyers has suggested releasing CCTV footage of the raid and dismissed concerns about the consequences of revealing the identities of agents who carried it out. Appearing on pro-Trump network Newsmax, Alina Habba said she would love to see the footage of the raid released specifically because it should be made clear which individual agents carried the FBI operation out. "We don't want you to see their identities," she said, mocking the rationale for keeping the tape sealed, "because we don't want you to know who did that." Well, if you're doing it as an agent, I'm not sure you should have that right. Copyright provided by the Independent. Trump lawyer says FBI agents who raided Mar-a-Lago should be publicly identified. Ferris Bueller actor revives famous catchphrase to beg Devin Nunes to return to Congress. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 22:45. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 22:45. Oliver O'Connell. Outspoken Republican activist Ben Stein has revived his famous catchphrase from Ferris Bueller's Day Off to plead with Trump supporting former GOP Congressman Devin Nunes to run for office again. Mr. Nunes is currently CEO of Mr. Trump's social media company Trump Media and Technology Group, which runs Truth Social. Copyright provided by the Independent. Ferris Bueller actor revives famous catchphrase to beg Nunes to return to Congress. Pence deeply troubled at actions of FBI and DOJ despite earlier defense of Bureau from GOP attacks. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 22:30. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 22:30. Oliver O'Connell. Former Vice President Mike Pence says he is deeply troubled at the search of the home of a former president by the FBI and the Department of Justice. He calls on Attorney General Merrick Garland to provide unprecedented transparency about the decision to search Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. And here is Mike Pence, having a Lindsey after getting chased through the airport flip-flop after getting flamed by MAGA after defending the FBI this week. He had one moment when he stood up and did the right thing. This led Steve Bannon to call him a disgusting coward. Copyright provided by the Independent. Steve Bannon calls Pence coward for defending FBI from attacks after Trump raid. "I feel sad about the way that too many of my colleagues have responded to what I think is a great moral test and challenge of our time." Ms. Cheney says she has no regrets about standing up on behalf of democracy and giving up her career within the party. ICYMI judge inclined to release partial Trump search warrant affidavit. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2200 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2200 hours. Oliver O'Connell, the federal magistrate judge who authorized last week's search of former President Donald Trump's Palm Beach, Florida Home has ordered the Department of Justice to lay out what parts of the affidavit used to obtain the search warrant should remain secret to protect ongoing criminal investigations. Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart on Thursday gave federal prosecutors 7 days to propose what parts of the affidavit, a sworn statement by a law enforcement officer laying out how and why the Justice Department came to believe there was evidence of crimes at Mr. Trump's home, should be redacted before the public can be permitted to view it. Copyright provided by the independent judge inclined to release partial Trump search warrant affidavit. Ludicrous. 18 ex-Trump aides deny his claim he was allowed to declassify documents. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 21:45. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 21:45. Oliver O'Connell. More than a dozen former Trump administration officials have shot down the former president's claims that he had a standing order to declassify documents that he took to his White House residence from the Oval Office. Donald Trump and his allies have claimed that the former president has a standing order stipulating that classified documents automatically became declassified when he removed them from the Oval Office in the days since the FBI searched his Florida residence for top-secret materials. However, 18 officials of the Trump White House have told CNN that they never heard of any such order being issued and said the claim was false. Shweta Sharma has the story. Copyright provided by the independent ex-Trump aides deny his ludicrous claim he was allowed to declassify documents. Chad Wolf called out for spreading alternative facts about 2020 election. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 21:35. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 21:35. Oliver O'Connell. CNN's Jim Acosta further challenged former acting Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf about the results of the 2020 election. Mr. Wolf, a Trump loyalist, acknowledged that Joe Biden is president, but refused to acknowledge that the election was conducted fairly. The CNN host responded, "Alternative facts," throwing back to the infamous statement by White House advisor Kellyanne Conway when asked about a statement by then-President Trump. Former DHS SEC says January 6 accountability lies with individuals not Trump. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 21:26. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 21:26. Oliver O'Connell speaking with CNN's Jim Acosta. Former Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf says that accountability for the events of January 6, 2021 lies with the individuals who went to the Capitol and not with then-President Donald Trump. In response to Mr. Acosta's question as to whether Mr. Trump's 187 minutes of inaction that day amounted to dereliction of duty, Mr. Wolf responded that he didn't think it did. Watch below. Acosta: what about Trump not doing anything for 187 minutes? Was that a dereliction of duty? ICYMI, Trump CFO Allen Weisselberg pleads guilty to tax fraud charges. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2100 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2100 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Allen Weisselberg, the longtime chief financial officer of former President Donald Trump's eponymous real estate and hotel business, has pleaded guilty to 15 separate violations of New York tax law. Mr. Weisselberg, who has worked for Mr. Trump for decades, stood in a Manhattan courtroom on Thursday as New York Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan read out each charge in the 15-count indictment. After each charge, he replied, "Yes, sir." Andrew Feinberg reports for The Independent. Copyright provided by the independent Trump Organization. CFO Allen Weisselberg pleads guilty to tax fraud charges. Alex Jones begs Trump to watch his show for context after saying he now backs DeSantis. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2045. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2045. Oliver O'Connell conspiracy theorist Alex Jones created a minor media storm this week when he announced that he would no longer pig-headedly support Donald Trump. Instead, he announced on his InfoWars show that he would now be supporting Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, saying he was someone who is better than Trump. Mr. Jones has since released a video asking the former president to watch the first half hour of his Thursday show to understand the context of his comments. Copyright provided by the independent. Alex Jones begs Trump to watch video for context after saying he now backs DeSantis. NBC poll, threats to democracy now top issue for voters. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2016. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2016. Oliver O'Connell, the latest NBC News poll finds threats to democracy is now voters' top issue, above cost of living and jobs and the economy. Abortion, which has been energizing base Democrats, is not ranked anywhere near the top, but then neither is crime, which Republicans have been pushing as a key issue for voters. NBC News poll finds threats to democracy is now voters' top issue, above cost of living and jobs and the economy. Abortion, which has been energizing base Democrats, not ranked as a top issue here. Neither is crime, which Republicans have tried to make a top issue. ICYMI, Steve Bannon calls Pence a disgusting coward for defending FBI. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2000 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 2000 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Former Trump administration advisor Steve Bannon railed against former Vice President Mike Pence on Wednesday after the latter defended the FBI from attacks and criticisms in response to the FBI executing a search warrant on Mar-a-Lago. Mr. Bannon made the remarks on his War Room Pandemic podcast. Eric Garcia has the story. Copyright provided by the Independent. Steve Bannon calls Pence coward for defending FBI from attacks after Trump raid. Copyright provided by the Independent. Half of Republicans say FBI acted irresponsibly after Mar-a-Lago raid. Poll finds the many investigations Donald Trump is facing. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 1900 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 1900 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Donald Trump is under several congressional, civil, and criminal investigations, which range from his business interests and allegations of tax fraud to his efforts to undermine the 2020 presidential election and fuel violence at the U.S. Capitol. The former president, his family business, real estate interests, and political allies are under scrutiny from federal investigators, state attorneys, and members of Congress. Copyright provided by the Independent. January 6, Mar-a-Lago and a golf course. The investigations Donald Trump is facing. Cheney says Trump would be afraid to debate her in 2024. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 1839. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 1839. Oliver O'Connell. Liz Cheney says that Donald Trump and the GOP would likely work to keep her off the debate stage were she to run as a Republican in 2024. She made the prediction on Sunday on ABC's This Week, while entertaining speculation about her future political endeavors. Ms. Cheney has openly hinted that she will run for president in 2024, but in her interview today cautioned that she would only do so if she thought there was an avenue to victory. John Bowden reports for The Independent from Washington, D.C. Copyright provided by The Independent. Liz Cheney says Donald Trump would be afraid to debate her in 2024. Watch. Cheney suggests that Trump fears debating her. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 1830. Oliver O'Connell. Amid speculation he may be a mole, Jared Kushner addresses FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 1800 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 1800 hours. Oliver O'Connell. Jared Kushner has claimed that the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago was another example of Donald Trump's enemies persecuting him. President Trump is a fighter. He's always been a fighter, Mr. Kushner told Fox News host Mark Levin on Saturday in his first public comments about the August 8 search of Mr. Trump's Florida home. And the way that he drives his enemies so crazy, they always over-pursue him and make mistakes in trying to get him. That's basically what happened here, Bevan Hurley reports. Copyright provided by The Independent. Jared Kushner addresses FBI raid on Trump home amid speculation he may be mole. Poll. Democrats closing enthusiasm gap as midterms approach. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 1740. Oliver O'Connell. Sunday, August 21, 2022, 1740. Oliver O'Connell. Despite President Joe Biden's stagnant approval ratings, one area in which Democrats can be pleased according to the latest NBC News poll is in enthusiasm. According to the survey, 68% of Republicans express a high level of interest in the upcoming election, registering either a 9 or 10 on a 10-point scale, versus 66% for Democrats. That 2-point GOP advantage is down from a 17-point gap in March and an 8-point gap in May. The pollsters who conduct the survey attribute the increased Democratic enthusiasm to the June Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade, which has shaken up the electorate. According to the survey results, 58% of voters disapprove of the court's decision to overturn the constitutional right to abortion, compared with 38% who approve.